Justice in the Dungeons.
I wouldn't believe it either, Damocles.
The jailer was an overweight man, and his armor could barely contain him. For all that, he seemed energetic enough, and had been happy to receive company.
But the evidence is telling. There was no trace of blasting powder, and our scryer found no traces of an Esper either. I'd soon believe a swarm of Fragor had been the ones responsible, except we didn't find any of their corpses either.
What's so impossible? Nightingale listened with interest, though occasionally she would glance behind the man to the row of cells that contained only one prisoner. The jailer looked to Damocles for permission to tell these strangers the situation. Damocles nodded.
It's all right. You can tell them. They're helping with the investigation.
Of course, sir.
The jailer gestured to a cell behind him.
I don't know how she did it, but somehow she took out a whole damn section of the mine shaft. The explosion was huge.
The man held his hands out wide.
It was so big that it caused various other sections of the caves to open up. Ones we sealed off a long time ago.
Damocles turned to the rest of them.
This happened around the same time as my mother being infected. The explosion caused a good portion of our mining operations to come to a halt. We're still trying to figure out which mines have been compromised by creatures and which ones haven't.
The jailer shook his head with worry.
We think at least 3 people were caught in the blast, though there were only a few pieces left behind. It's hard to be sure.
What was she doing in the mines in the first place? Zeke asked with a glance at the small girl huddled in the corner of the cell.
No idea.
The jailer scratched his head.
No tools on her, not so much as a rock pick. Of course, we don't really know how she survived the blast, seeing as she was at the center of it, not to mention how she didn't get eaten by all the things let loose from deeper in the mines.
What about the book? Rookin noticed the girl holding a book tightly against her chest. She seemed to be hugging it close to her as if she was taking comfort in its pages. The jailer shook his head.
That's where it gets really strange. When we found her, she was hiding, covered in, well, dirt. We cleaned her up and took her gear, but we couldn't take that book.
What do you mean you couldn't take the book?
Damocles had a stupid look on his face, like the man was being incompetent.
I mean, we physically couldn't take it.
The jailer sounded a bit flabbergasted.
It had some kind of magical properties about it. We tried taking it more than once, and each time it ended up back in the cell with her. It even attacked another guard. Didn't do much, but caused a mighty lump on his head, though.
Huh? Nightingale shrugged, more intrigued than anything.
Doesn't make any damn sense.
The jailer lowered his voice to a whisper. Though he spoke only to Damocles, Nightingale could still hear him clearly enough.
Frankly, I'm nervous about keeping her here, sir. An explosion that size right here in town might kill 100 people.
Damocles nodded.
I'd like to speak with her if that's all right.
Of course.
The jailer rose, removing a large keyring from around his belt, and made his way to the door.
You just holler for me if you need any help. We don't have any other prisoners right now, so nobody should bother you. Prisoner, the Duke's son is here to have a chat. You'd best behave yourself.
There was no answer. In the back corner of the cell was a girl, shorter than Nightingale, young-looking and mousy with huge blue eyes hidden behind even bigger glasses. She sat on her cot with her back against the wall, one hand resting on a worn-looking book. Damocles stepped up to the cage and beckoned to the girl inside.
Explain yourself, girl.
The girl said nothing and instead just scooted further away.
Do you know how many people have been injured or killed by that explosion?
Again, the girl said nothing. Instead, she buried her head into the lap where her book was. Damocles seemed to get angrier that she wasn't responding.
Are you hearing me? My mother is...
Nightingale put a hand on Damocles' shoulder, and he turned to see her shaking her head. She stood on her tippy-toes to reach his ear and whispered,
Damocles, let me do the talking for a moment, please.
Damocles looked like he was going to make a retort, but he instead moved aside.
Excuse me.
Nightingale stopped right in front of the bars, trying to sound as sympathetic as she could. We need your help. The girl looked up from behind the bar to see Nightingale pressing her face between the bars, her horns only letting her head go so far. My friends and I are in a bit of a predicament that we need help with. Nightingale laughed. Actually, you might be the only one who can help us at all. A long moment of silence occurred, and Nightingale had to shush Damocles more than once before the girl finally spoke. You need help from a murderer? I'm not sure that's what you are. Nightingale pulled over a stool from against the wall and sat down. People died, but that might not make you a murderer. Accidents happen. The prisoner nodded. Her eyes were swollen, and there were streaks through the dirt on her face. I don't like hurting people. I didn't mean to. The girl tensed, one hand suddenly rigid as she gripped the book beside her. What do you need help with? There was fear this time, and she was staring openly at them now. I'm Nightingale. These are my friends Zeke, Remy, and Rook. We've been searching for you. Nightingale could barely contain her nervous energy. What if this girl could save her? The girl hesitated a moment before speaking. I'm Justice. Justice Bouchard. The girl turned. I don't think you want my help. People tend to get hurt around me, and I can't always stop it. People get hurt around you? Is it because of your magic? Rook asked excitedly. What? How do you know about that? Justice recoiled a bit. You're the only one who can help us, Justice. You're the only one with Theodosian magic. Nightingale took a gamble and hoped that the girl would react to the words. She did. It was like Nightingale had flipped a switch. Justice snatched up her book, retreating back into the corner of her cell where she was obscured in shadow. Even so, flickers of light seemed to emerge from its pages, twisting around her fingers. You shouldn't know about that. Nightingale ignored her fear. She'd already made progress with honesty. Might as well finish. There's a monster torturing me, Justice. Every day its grip gets tighter. No matter what I do, it will kill me soon without your help. Justice set down her book, and her voice returned to the timid, nervous tone she'd been using before. What kind of creature? It's called the Malama. I don't know what it wants. I want you. The haunting voice cut through her mind and made her stop talking. Nightingale gritted her teeth, ignoring the involuntary shiver the voice brought on. But we think we can help you if you can help us. We searched for a cure, Rook explained, his voice calm. The only one we found was an obscure reference to Theodosian magic. Justice slowly climbed to a stand, slinging the book under one arm. She slowly walked all the way to the front of her cell, then looked Nightingale up and down. Malama? She closed her eyes. I can sense the creature within you. You're telling the truth. Justice shook her head. I don't think I can help you, though. But I might know someone who can. Excuse me. Damocles cleared his throat. His voice trembled in an audible attempt to keep himself calm. It sounds like your mission is important, but my mother is also dying. You found your answer. Now we need to find the ones responsible for letting that blighted guardian into my family's manor. If this girl doesn't know... For all she'd been timid before, Justice didn't retreat. She eyed Damocles warily. Blighted guardian? I do know. Well, the ones who tried to kill me down in the mines had blighted guardians with them. I don't think the explosion got them all. Damocles seemed too stunned to speak. Nightingale wasn't. What were you doing down there anyway? Justice hesitated. We were looking for something. I tracked it to the mines, but we weren't the only ones looking. Nightingale wanted to ask what Justice had been looking for, but decided against it. Damocles advanced, forcing her out of the way. We? Who were you down there with? Justice looked like she was about to cry. My friends, or acquaintances anyway. We were ambushed, though. I had to use Theodosian to protect myself. The explosion from my spell is what caused the damage to your minds. One of the men who ambushed you must have got away. The explosion was 2 days before my estate was attacked. Did you see anything? Damocles had both hands on the bars. Nightingale could see him gripping them so tightly his knuckles had gone white. Yes, Justice answered, taking a step back. Tell me
Tell me everything. Anything you saw might help us find those who are responsible,
Damocles insisted. Justice looked to Nightingale and saw that she had the same hopeful look as Damocles. Look, I can take you there, to where they might be hiding in your minds. But you need to let me go if I do.
You're not in a position to make demands.
Damocles glowered at her through the bars.
Share what you know, and I'll ask for leniency for you. It's more than generous.
No. Justice shook her head. They tried to kill me. I was only defending myself. I didn't mean to cause so much destruction. So here's my counteroffer. You get me out, and I'll help both of you. First, I lead you to the one who commanded those blighted guardians. Then I'll take you to the only person I know that can help with the Malama. Damocles scowled but said nothing. Do you swear on your life? Nightingale asked. On my life, Justice replied.